Poland is on high alert. Just when the war in Ukraine seemed to be drifting further from the media spotlight, the Russians pushed it right back to the center of global attention. Because, friends, in the early hours of last night, at least 19 Russian military drones entered Polish airspace, NATO airspace, in what has been one of the largest violations of alliance territory in memory. As you can imagine, this set off all the alarms. Poland shot down Russian drones. This is the first time a NATO member has fired in the context of the war in Ukraine. 19 objects entered its airspace during a massive Russian airstrike against Ukraine. And yes, this marks a major escalation in the conflict. Poland partially closed its airspace to carry out a military sweep operation to neutralize the Russian drones. According to Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, 3 or 4 of them were ultimately shot down. One of those drones crashed into a residential building in Biryuki, a Polish town on the border with Belarus and Ukraine, destroying the roof. Luckily, no one was injured. But the story doesn't end there. Warsaw has denounced the incident as an act of aggression, a deliberate provocation against Poland and NATO as a whole, warning of serious consequences. The question now is, why did at least 19 drones suddenly enter Poland? What exactly happened, and how? This took place during a massive Russian air attack on Ukraine on the night of Tuesday, September 9th. We're talking about more than 400 drones and over 40 cruise missiles, striking at least 17 different locations across the country, especially in the western regions. It was, once again, a night of Russian terror over Ukraine, forcing tens of thousands of Ukrainians to sleep in air raid shelters. But what had never been seen before was a drone incursion of this scale into NATO territory. That's new. At least 8 of the drones that entered Poland were Shate drones, the Iranian-made drones that Vladimir Putin favors to terrorize Ukrainians. These are about 3.5 meters long and can carry a warhead of up to 50 kilograms, enough to destroy a small building in a single strike. Clearly, this was no joke. Poland treated the situation with maximum seriousness, deploying air defenses and urging residents to stay indoors. Fighter jets were soon flying across the skies. Poland's response was both military and diplomatic. Militarily, Polish F-16s, along with Dutch and American F-35 surveillance planes, and refueling aircraft, launched an operation to neutralize the drones and secure the airspace. Diplomatically, Poland invoked NATO's Article 4, something so exceptional that it has only been used 6 times in the alliance's 76-year history. This article allows a member state that feels threatened to request an urgent consultation with the rest of NATO members. And what has Russia said? Very little. The Russian affair in Warsaw denied that Russian drones entered Polish airspace. Other Russian sources have suggested it was a Ukrainian false flag operation, or that GPS interference caused the drones to drift into Poland. But the evidence points clearly to Russia. This isn't the first time. In recent years, Russian drones and aircraft have violated NATO airspace repeatedly. In 2024 alone, incidents occurred in Romania, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. Until now, they were considered likely accidents. But when it happens again, and especially on this scale, it stops looking accidental. The big question is, why would Russia deliberately provoke Poland? What does Moscow stand to gain? Analysts point to 3 main objectives. First, raising tensions to gain leverage in negotiations. Russia often uses maximalist tactics, creating crises to pressure the other side into concessions. By forcing NATO jets into the air and alarming the public, Moscow makes the idea of Ukraine yielding territory seem like a lesser evil, compared to escalation. Second, testing NATO's air defense and surveillance systems. Just days after this incident, Russia and Belarus launched major military exercises. Zapad 2025. Using drone incursions to probe Polish and NATO defenses makes strategic sense, especially since Poland is emerging as one of Europe's strongest military powers. Third, punishing the United States for its public commitment to Poland. While President Trump has reduced the U.S. military footprint in the Baltics, he pledged to maintain, even increase, the American presence in Poland. This angered Moscow, and the drone incursion was a way of putting pressure on Washington, exposing the risks of such a commitment. In short, Moscow likely had a plan, escalate tensions, test NATO defenses, and challenge US-Polish ties. Experts and military analysts agree this was no accident, but a deliberate operation, and one that could be repeated. The problem is clear. NATO's deterrence over Moscow seems very limited. So now the questions are, how should NATO respond? What exactly is Moscow aiming for with these provocations? And how will Poland act next? What do you think?